Welcome to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. My name is Vicki Poole. I'm a master transformational coach and hypnotist specializing in habit change. And this podcast is sponsored by the Enlightened Peach. And it's all about embracing our mosaic life. Well, some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life? Well, it is recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing, and we are totally different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. And I am your host, and I have a special guest that I'll introduce in just a moment. But before I do, I would love to ask you to do me a solid, and that is to like, subscribe, and share this message out to someone that you love, because these guests I have are just amazing, and I would love to have their reach go even bigger. So, like, subscribe, and share. So now let's get started. So this lovely lady right here, and I love your glasses, by the way, Brenda, is Brenda Brewer. And I'll be honest, we really don't know each other. And it's kind of fun when we have conversations when we really almost know nothing about each other. And I don't even remember what group I saw you in that I reached out, but it's always an amazing journey to get to know someone. So if you don't mind, maybe just share a little snippet of who you are, and then we'll kind of get the conversation going.
All right, thanks, Vicki. Thank you so much for asking me to come on. I love doing these. I love seeing what arises in the moment. A little bit about my background. I'm a certified relationship and life coach, and I did that for relationship coaching specifically for 6 years. I was trained by Rory Ray. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She's a pioneer in the field of relationship coaching. But before that, I'm an electronic music artist, vocalist, and I've been did that for a very long time. And now I just started acting this year, and I was recently on set with Spike Lee, and we'll get into all of that. So I'm just when I heard the title of your podcast, I was like, that's just like so me, because whatever I feel like and dream up, I have this phrase called, well, do the math. Like if you're thinking of doing something, like look at all the possibilities. There are more possibilities than there are barriers. So that's just a little bit about me. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Oh,
So,
by the way, I do want to mention that I live in Manhattan. I live in New York City. I was born here, and I came back about 17 years ago, and that'll probably come into play.
all right, beautiful. And I was just about to say, I think you live in New York. So took the words right out of my mouth. And
Mhm.
I love that you're getting into acting and that you have this presence about you of, if, like you said, do the math. If I decide I'm going to do something, I'm just going to figure out how to do it, not the excuses of why I can't. And so many people fall into that little pitfall of all the reasons why it's not going to work. And sometimes they don't even try. That has been me in the past, to be perfectly honest with you. There was a
Yeah.
time in my life where I didn't want to look stupid. So if I didn't know how to do something, I didn't want to try. Now, how idiotic is that, right? It's like you never learn then. But I had this fear of someone saying something and me feeling stupid. And so I would just like, oh no, I don't want to try that. I'm not interested, all that stuff, right? So it took me a while to get out of that. And I'm fascinated with the relationship coach thing too. So, where do you want to dive in and start telling me a little bit about you?
I want to add one thing to
Okay.
the dive in. I'm also a practicing Buddhist. I'm what they call a secular Buddhist.
Okay.
And I just got offered a job at the New York, it's called Risho Kosei Kai. They're from Japan. Um, uh, Peace and Dharma Center. They're right around the corner from the United Nations. And they have asked me to be their social media outreach coordinator and a Dharma
Wow.
teacher for them. So that's like my most important role.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get into why, because all the other stuff that I do, and that I have guided people and I have held people's hands through, whether it be relationships or, reaching your goals or anything like that, is that the getting the goal is not going to make you happy
Right.
in term. And that's why the Dharma that's what Buddhism is the Dharma is the study of reality for those who don't know. So it's everything, within, from perception and how the mind, what arises in the mind, and we all have the same human mind. So what you were saying about not wanting to feel stupid and all that kind of stuff, that's a universal human thing, and it
Mm-hmm.
goes back to our evolutionary past.
Yeah.
And because the Buddhist practices are 2,600 years old, and they just observed the mind and then made all these lists, kind of like Aristotle. Okay, this happens when this happens, and it's all about causes and conditions. When you understand how the mind works, then you can work with little things like that, because
Mm-hmm.
it's totally normal and natural. But our evolutionary instincts and the things that helped us survive thousands of years ago are no longer needed in our modern life. And we actually can have like this thing called happiness that people who are trying to just survive didn't have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm a teacher of happiness.
Ah, I love that. I love that. I had a friend years ago, um, and he was a Buddhist, but he was also a Sufi. I don't know if you're even familiar with a Sufi. Yeah, and I went to a few of his Sufi meetings with him, and I was like, what? Okay, this is pretty cool, but I don't really know that much about it. But I did attend those meetings, and I went and saw the Tibetan monks,
Yeah.
and the Dalai Lama. And so there's so many things, but I'm not a studying Buddhist, but I'm always fascinated with the mindset that
Yeah.
about that. And one of the things I'll just share real quick is that I talk quite often in my Facebook group, Stand Up and Stand Out. I do daily affirmations and journal prompts every single day. And one of the things that I allude to a lot is, how the Tibetan monks would all come together and they would meditate as a group to affect change in a certain area, like from violence and different things. And so I'm always talking about how they affect change and how we can do the same thing if we collectively get together.
Yeah, that's super powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So have you always been interested in Buddhism, or is that something that came to you later?
For a long time. It's been, my first Buddhist teacher was about 25 years ago now. His name is Ajahn Shanti, and he's very big, but he's actually retired now. It's been so long. But I used to see him at the Unity Church every Wednesday night, and he would hold these meetings called satsangs, and people would get up, and he would try and break people out of the identification with the thought patterns that create the little me. Oh, me. I
Mm-hmm.
I want that. I like this. I don't like that. So that's where it started. And then I got into just every flavor,
So
just
how did you, to back up, how did you get to that first? I mean, so it's a Unity church. I've been to Unity church many times. So what were you before you got interested in Unity? Was there something that happened that put you on that path, or was it just you were
yes.
there? What
Yep.
happened?
Something happened when I was about 22, or I think I was 23. I was in a bookstore just looking at self-help books.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I had extreme anxiety, and I used to have massive panic attacks. And that's back when doctors would just give you Xanax like it was
Right.
candy. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually didn't like Xanax. It didn't make, I don't respond the same to like drugs that alter your moods and all that stuff, that other people do. And then it made me feel depressed. And then when I tried to get off of it, I had withdrawals. It was horrible. So I was just looking for books on anxiety and all this stuff. And I saw this book. It was called Living in the Light
Okay.
by, by this woman named Shakti Gawain. And she
I
was
think I
out
might
in,
have that book, but go ahead. I'm
you
sorry.
probably do. A lot of people have it. And like, she's from Mill Valley, California. And so I start reading this book, and it's all about like intuition. And it's her story about how she changed her name to Shakti because she started like getting into Hinduism and all this stuff. And her book was kind of her own interpretation of all the things that she was learning. And so a couple years later, I was so into this that I changed my stage name, because I've been singing since I was 15. But then I moved to California, and like all these synchronicities happened. I met this guy from Mill Valley, and we started dating, and he flew me out there. It was just and totally not having anything to do with any of that. Um, and I changed my stage name when I started getting into electronic music to Soul Sister Shakti. And so
Okay.
I have released a lot of music with a lot of amazing, high level musicians from all over the world and producers. And so that was the beginning of it. So here I am into this whole Shakti thing, and I started getting into Advaita, which is non-dualism. So it
Okay.
comes from the East, and that's the basis of emptiness, which is a concept in Buddhism, which like nothing has meaning unless the meaning you give to it,
Right. Right.
and that's just true.
Right.
So I started super like getting into this Advaita stuff, and then I don't know, like I met somebody or whatever, and they said, oh, this guy Ajashanti. Oh, I think around the same time then I started getting into Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, I like him too. Yeah.
So like, oh, like meetups and stuff like that, like, oh, Eckhart Tolle meetups or whatever, and invite, and I start meeting all these people, and then somehow in there they're like, oh my God, you have to, if you like, you have to come see Ajashanti. And I mean, he became huge. Like he had Alanis Morissette and him like would do these huge, I mean, that's how big he got.
Okay.
And but I was there, in the humble beginnings or whatever. But it took me a long time, as it's a really hard jump to go from, yeah, I'm myself, to no, there is no you. And I read a brilliant explanation of what that means. And there's no self.
Mm-hmm.
A self is a concept that arises and falls between the causes and conditions that you find yourself in. I am doing this. That's just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
What there is a person, and a person is a process.
Okay.
So I wish someone had told me this 30 years ago, but that's okay. I figured it out finally. And once I finally started understanding that, when I came back to New York, I started going to this place called Community Meditation Center. I was living nearby, and I wanted to like really, really this time, I'm gonna really get into meditation and not fall off the wagon. And on the faculty was this woman, Sharon Salzberg. You may have heard of her. She's,
No,
or
I
maybe,
haven't.
but she's one of the people that brought meditation to the United States from
Okay.
India. And so she was on the faculty, and then her student, who was a former Broadway performer, he was an older man, him and his wife, and he was a guiding teacher, and he was just amazing because he was like this, almost like an operatic, just very, had this big presence, and he was just amazing teacher of meditation and all the teachings that come with it from the Theravada tradition, which is the basis for insight meditation.
Okay.
So went there for about 10 years, and on and it's like you're sitting there and you get it, and then you lose it, and it's like you have to go back and you get it again, and then you lose it, because it's not something, the study supports the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the difference between trying to describe how sour our lemon is and then to actually biting into the lemon,
Okay.
tasting the sour. So it took me a long time to get that too. And then when I finally, jumping ahead a little bit into to the future now, here in my building in New York City, a guy moved in next door to me, and he was a heroin addict.
Mm-hmm.
And at first everything was fine, and like everybody's very friendly and supportive of each other in the building, and we welcomed him with open arms, and but then he started using again and started like freaking out, like the cops were here all the time and stuff, and I was really angry. I had to deal with this for like a year, and I started going because of COVID. Community meditation center closed down, and and so I started looking for an in-person
You mean
meditation community.
permanently, right?
Well, I just knew I needed in person. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm just,
well, permanently for the
'cause I
last
know a
4 years.
lot of places did that were physical locations. They couldn't stand it.
They're reopening now, I guess.
Okay.
And that teacher has retired, and there's a whole big thing with that, and it is still wonderful. But so the only in-person people that I could really find that were really open was this center from Japan called Risho Kosei Kai. So I went and I called them, and I'm like, I want to come and meet with you guys. I'm looking for a place to practice and whatever. And I went and had a meeting with them, and a couple guys that didn't speak very good English from Japan. They're just really, really wonderful people. But one of the Dharma teachers was from New York, and he was with them for a long time. I think his mother was also a practitioner. And so we spoke with them. I spoke with him, and I started practicing with them. And so fast forward, this has already been going on for a year with this craziness next door. And I started chanting with them, which is just another form of, it's a meditative, contemplative practice.
Mm-hmm.
One day I had an insight while I was like, I have to dedicate my practice to him.
Mm-hmm.
And within 2 days, the insanity stopped. I
Meaning he
mean,
moved or he got better?
he started getting better.
Wow.
And I mean, this was,
I need you to start chanting
I
for
would be
someone I
throwing
know.
himself, I would be throwing himself into the walls and stuff like that.
Wow. That's
And
powerful.
and I knew that I had to do it for myself first and foremost, because I was like, this is stupid. Like you should know better, but when you're angry and you don't know what to do of something that you have no control, that's kind of hard to like work through, but
Mm-hmm.
but that's how I worked it through.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh my God. And then it was just complete silence, and I mean, literally I thought he was dead or something. And then just a few short months later, I bumped into him in the hallway, and he wouldn't look at me because he was so embarrassed.
Right, right.
And I said, hey, I said, Joey, I said, I love you. This will make, right? And he just came up to me, and I gave him a big hug. And I said, Happy New Year. It was around Christmas time. And he said, yeah, Merry Christmas. He goes, and next year is going to be a really good year for all of us. And he has not changed back into the old behavior.
Wow.
And I never see him again. And I thought he was in jail. And I bumped into him in the hallway. I think maybe he went to rehab or something, but last week. And I was like, Joe. And he said, yeah. And he was so happy. And he was so happy to see me. And he's like, yeah, I've been working graveyard shift. And I couldn't believe it.
Wow, wow. So I got a question for you. So I do meditations. Definitely, I'm not a professional. I haven't done all this studying like you have, which is impressive, I will tell you. But I do meditations, and I used to do a lot of guided meditations, but now I do it more like where I sit in silence, and in order to quiet my mind, I'll focus on like the sounds of the room and different things that I can to get me into this space so that I can actually work through whatever it is that's going on in my mind. And I actually tell people when I'm doing my affirmations and journal prompts that before they start their journaling, to take a few moments, 5-10 minutes, and just get in silence and then start journaling so that they can get their subconscious mind, to start talking to them a little bit more. So, what is the difference in that and what you're talking about with this? What did you call it? The Japanese one? The one you're just working
Chanting.
on? Okay. So what's
chanting.
the difference?
Tibetans chant too. The Zen people chant. Most Buddhist traditions chant. Even the Theravada monks chant. They chant the sutras, which are the teachings, the words of the Buddha. So the difference is that we're doing it with the intention of removing all of the conditioning in our mind. So what I was saying before, all the things that arise in the mind that come out of causes and conditions, that the mind will just naturally do. We all have the same mind. We are bringing that process down, bringing our evolutionary instincts, calming it down, and literally clearing it out, because at the base of our consciousness is pure awareness that is not involved with projection,
Mm-hmm.
just sees things as they are. So
Right.
that's what all the practices are about. Now, of course, on your journey, there are other things that we need to do in our mundane physical lives. And then there are practices around that too, to support our physical lives.
Right. So cool. So cool. So I just have to ask, when you were really young, were you in a religious type of setting?
Very much so.
I had a feeling so.
Very much so. And so I identify as atheist.
Okay.
And my father was a minister. He's a very bad man. And this is
He's
full
a
knowledge.
what did you say he
Very
was?
bad man. Very bad
Okay.
man.
Okay.
And he was involved in a child sex trafficking ring.
Oh, wow.
And so my brothers and I, we grew up, and we had obviously a lot of trauma. Two of my brothers are dead. My other brother is going to be in New York soon. This because I grew up here. We grew up here. And he has a case against a church here that he says he knows for sure that they were involved. And it's just crazy. The things that I've seen growing up in the church is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's not why I became an atheist, though.
Okay.
I'm an atheist because I did my own research, and I just didn't feel like it made that the supreme being thing made sense to me.
Right.
I
Right.
believe in religious freedom, and all Risho Kosei Kai are involved in a lot of interfaith work because they used to do stuff with the United Nations. So
Yeah. Well, I've had a guest on my podcast. She's been on, I don't remember if I've had her on 2 or 3 times, but actually she grew up in the church and she was trafficked. And
not yeah.
she ended up developing multiple personalities because of it. So there was a lot of not only
Association.
the sex
Yeah.
trafficking, but there was a lot of physical, not just sex physical, but physical harm. It was very brutal stuff that she went through, and she developed those multiple personalities. And so, you know, shit happens, right? And it's
I
amazing to
listen, it
me.
happens. And the same thing happened to me.
Okay.
I don't hear those voices anymore, but
Okay.
the same exact thing happened to me, and it happens to so many people that goes through that.
Yeah.
And God, God bless her. Just it's a saying. I'm so sorry to hear that for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Me, I challenged my father at 12 years old.
Hmm.
I ran away and I left a note and I said, I'm not coming back until you get divorced. My mom is from the Dominican Republic. So at the time, she was very subservient, very, very religious. So she believed in submitting and plus he was a minister.
Right.
He's from Maine. So there was this massive power imbalance. And I didn't come back. And I did get them divorced at 12.
Wow.
So I had a lot of power at a very young age that I went through a long time just really not being scared of anything. And I don't think that's maybe good. Because like when I first moved back to New York, when guys would, bother me on the street or whatever, I'd say, I ain't out here looking for you. And you can't do that on the streets of New York. I don't do
I don't think I would.
that.
Well, so you said you don't hear the voices anymore. So how did you um take care of that? How did you eradicate those voices in your mind?
Well,
you know?
I think it's just been a culmination of a lot of things. But when we go back to causes and conditions and things arising in the mind, there's no need for those things, those voices or those parts or whatever to arise or even exist anymore because I feel safe.
Okay.
But just 10 years ago, I had such an episode where two of the voices were talking together, and it took over my whole mind. I started hurting really bad in my stomach, and I was lying on the floor just crying, listening to these two voices talk to each other.
Wow.
And I thought I was, I didn't, it was just so crazy. I thought like I was going to have a heart attack or something, like, and it wasn't anxiety. So after I called an ambulance after I could move, and they did find that I had an ulcer. So all that stress from the different parts of me trying to, because I was living not where I live now, and I didn't feel safe where I lived.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm so sorry that that happened to you, but like I say in the intro, it's part of our mosaic, and you have become such a strong person. Not that you wish that you had gone through that, but man, the person that you've become through it is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that, because obviously I don't feel like people have to go through those things.
Right,
But the reason I went through it is because those things are happening in our world, and they're not just happening to me.
right,
And so it is important for people that are going through it even now to understand that they do have the strength within. It will take a lot of support, and but it's possible to get where I am, living my dreams, which I've always done that ever since I was 15. Even when I was dealing with all the anxiety and the multiple personalities and all that stuff, I kept going. I had to take breaks sometimes because mentally I would just not be able to, because I hadn't healed enough to the point where I was always okay.
hmm
I'm pretty much always okay now.
yeah. Well, I I had heard of sex trafficking and the multiple personalities and all these things before, but I've really been shocked because I've had quite a few people on that you would never know that that was part of their life that they dealt with. And and then I would get in a conversation with them, and they would start telling me things, and I think, oh my gosh, this happens so much more than I ever would have imagined in my life. So it's blows my mind sometimes, the resilience of the human spirit, because we can become stronger through all the things that we deal with, and it creates such an amazing gift within the person. And not saying that anybody wants that particular
Right.
gift, but but
Yeah.
it's amazing that the human spirit is so wonderful to be able to withstand that stuff. And so when did you start doing all your music stuff? Was that part of your healing too?
Well, I started doing the music when I was 15.
Okay, so about the same time then, right?
Well, a little bit later. Well, because
Okay.
that abuse, the first section of the abuse I went through with the sex trafficking happened when I was under 12. And
Okay.
then another period started with a new abuser after, when I turned 13. But when I was 15, I I always loved to sing, and I was 15 years old, and I was walking down the street. I was living up in Lewiston, Maine at the time, and there was this huge music store. I mean, it was just massive. And I used to go in there all the time and look at all the instruments and stuff. And I walked in and I saw this guy that I knew from the keg parties, a friend of mine,
Yeah.
and he was playing What About Love by the Doobie Brothers. And
Okay.
I just sat down and we started singing together. and we were just having a blast. And he's like, "Oh my God, I didn't know you could sing." He's like, "I want you to come and join our band." And so we started having parties, and charging money and everything. And then we'd rent the Knights of Columbus, and you know, I was an entrepreneur at 15. And then I started getting into bands that played in bars. And
Mm-hmm.
because if you serve food in the bar, even as a teenager, I could perform.
Okay.
That was a law.
Yeah.
So I just started. So I eventually quit high school because I was doing all this. And then I kind of went back because, like, I don't know, it's kind of back and forth. And my guidance counselor, he said, "Look," he said, "if you stay in school, we're prepared to give you a full scholarship to Bowdoin College, which is an Ivy League school."
Oh,
And
wow.
I didn't stay. I don't regret it, but yeah, I was having too much fun
Yeah.
making money.
And creating so much talent within you,
Yeah.
exploring and letting it out. Because that's a lot of times what people do is they know that they have get this gift, but they don't actually let it out. They kind of hold it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let it out.
That's right. That's right. One of my friends, she has a group on Facebook and it's called Entrepreneurs Gone Wild, and she teaches people who are entrepreneurs to get outside and get in nature, and so that then they can be more creative. And so that to me is one of my creative places, like when I can go outside and go for a walk or go barefoot in the grass and do those kinds of things. And so it sounds like with a lot of the stuff that you're kind of doing that same thing. You may not be standing outside or in the grass, but
Oh, I
you're,
am. I
are
did my
you?
stuff in Central Park today.
Okay,
And
okay.
then when I have time, I ride my bike. I mean, I do long distances. I go way up to Westchester County where I really am in the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Isn't it amazing how
yeah.
creative things flow to you when you're out in nature? Like I've got where I carry my phone with me and I used to listen to podcast or I would listen to something on YouTube or some whatever, a book. But now I've got where I just have my phone with me so that I can make notes of whatever's coming to me. And I like listening to the creatures. I live in the South. I'm in Georgia, and so
What part of Georgia are you?
I'm in Marietta,
Okay.
so I'm a little north of Atlanta, and but and I know it sounds amazing everywhere you go when you get out into nature, but for something about in the South, the little creatures that come out, especially at night, it's like a symphony of music that's going on, and that will just get my creative juices flowing like nothing else.
I'm so glad to hear that because I've been to Savannah and Atlanta, and yeah, that there is a very special magic in the outdoors in the South. But what you're telling me about your friend who gets coaches people to get outside and all that stuff, it's like when I hear stuff like that, and when I see a lot of the coaches in different types of services, I can't believe that people, but it's true, a lot of people stay inside too much. And we didn't evolve to be inside all the time. Yes, human beings need shelter, but we used to spend most of our time
Mhm.
outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when I was a kid, it was like you were outside and come home when it gets dark, and you
Oh, when
just
the
went and played,
fireflies,
right?
catch
Yeah.
some fireflies and then go inside.
Of course, I'm in the South, so it's lightning bugs.
Oh, okay. It might be lightning bug. I don't know. Fireflies, lightning bugs. I've heard that one too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, of all the things that you've had going on in your life, what do you think has been the most paramount in creating this resilient spirit that you have? What's led you to that, do you think?
What would lead a 12-year-old to jump out of her second story bedroom window and leave a note saying, "I'm not coming back until you get divorced"? I've always been that way.
Yeah.
I've always, maybe it's because I'm the only girl. of the three boys, but I'm also the oldest.
Okay.
So I always felt very protective of my younger brothers. Um, and because I was really the only functioning adult because of everything that was going on, I think I kind of just stepped into a role in
So
that
you've
way.
kind of always been like the rescuer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I had to be.
Yeah.
Somebody had to rescue us for
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. That's amazing. So did you have family and everything that you could go to, or where did you go if you're 12?
No, because my father was from northern Maine, so we did used to go there up there on vacations, and but like I wasn't close with those people, and I'm not still. Like I said, my mom's from the Dominican Republic, so now that I've been back and everything, like I went to Dominican Republic a couple times when we were kids and met like bunch of my cousins, and now like a lot huge family. My mom had like 11 brothers and sisters, so a
Hmm.
lot of them live up here now in New York City. Some of them were born here like I was, and we are all in communication now, but back then I didn't have that kind of contact with my family. So of course my father designed it that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So when you jumped out the window at 12, where did you go?
So this is hilarious now, but it wasn't at the time. I was with my friend Lori, and my father said that she had to go home, and he was just being mean for no reason, and it just, that was a straw that broke the camel back. It wasn't even all the other shit. It was that he let her stay over, and I was like, this guy, I'm done. And so I go, so she had to leave. I go, wait outside. And she's like, so she goes outside, and my dad used to crochet. So he was looking at his crocheting needles, and he didn't see that I told her to wait outside. So I run upstairs, I write the note really, really fast. I open the window, and she's hiding behind a tree, and she's like, what are you doing? She's really, really immature, and she still is. Um, so she's laughing, and I'm like, I'm jumping out the window. So I climb out, and then I'm hanging, and now I'm afraid to let go. And then I realized, oh my God, are my legs like, are my feet like hanging in the window, in like the bay window down there? I don't think they were. I don't think I was that long. But then I started getting scared that he was going to see my face. So they're like, holy shit, if he sees my feet, he's going to beat the shit out of me. So I just let go. And it was the middle of winter up in Lewiston, Maine, and I landed on ice, and I
Hmm.
hurt myself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, fuck. And I start crying. She's laughing. And then so like I run over to her, and I'm like, run. And we run, and we get to her house, and her mom, she's like, what are you two doing? And I told her what I did. And then I told her everything.
Oh, wow.
And I said, we have to get my mom out of there. So I didn't go back home. I stayed there with her. And then my friend's mom did an intervention for my mom.
Okay.
My mom moved in,
Okay.
and then finally, and then they helped her, get a divorce, and the judge kicked him out, and then we went home.
Oh, wow. You are so powerful. Right? Right?
And I'm telling you, I paid, like, yeah, he beat the shit out of me more than once after that, but that's okay. He didn't kill me, so
Well, it's a damn good thing, right?
yeah.
I'm glad you're sitting here having this
Yeah.
conversation with me. So, what is the one thing that you are looking forward to doing now or in the not too distant future? Is there something really special coming up for you?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to starting to what I'll be doing for Risho Kosei Kai. So there's a couple of things I'm looking forward to. That's the big one. To start their YouTube channel, and then I'm going to be creating courses, and the first one's on relationships. And it
Okay.
was just kind of coincidentally that's that the Reverend James, the head teacher, that he asked me that, and he didn't know that I had a background in relationship coaching. So it just worked out perfectly. So I'm super excited about that. I start September 5th, I start acting classes at the Barrow Group. And that's where, oh, she just had a Prime Video movie where she's with a younger guy, like 20 years younger or something, and he's a pop star. I just can't remember her name right now. Super famous. That's where she got her start at. And I used to study the Meisner technique, and I decided that wasn't for me. And then I did some research and I found this. And
And what's it called again?
so the Barrow Group, I think they teach method acting.
Okay. Okay.
So I will let you know. So maybe you can put it in the information after what her name is.
Okay. All right.
I just can't
And
remember. She's a super famous actress, like everybody loves her.
yeah, and it's funny because it's like I have streaming services, but I don't have regular cable. So I haven't seen anything about movies that are coming out and all. So I can't help you. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a but if it comes to me,
Yeah,
but
it'll
so
come
yeah,
to you.
acting classes. And then, just looking forward to see. So I'm working as a background actor now.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What
in
does that
May,
mean?
it means like people in crowds
Okay.
are it could be from minuscule to working with the principal actors, depending on what the director needs, and you never know. So I was on set with Spike Lee in May, and I'm in his next movie. I've been on FBI, I've been on Law and Order SVU, Law and Order Original, Blue Bloods. So I'm looking forward to whatever the next role that I get cast in, whatever it is. It's so fun being on set.
I bet. I bet. Sounds like it would be
And just
a
being
lot
right
of work
there.
though. I just
It's
the thing
not
that
for me.
no, well, see, the thing that is always mind-boggling to me is how do people remember all the stuff for that they have to say, their lines.
Well, it's because it's not just memorization,
Okay.
getting into character, and then you have this context all within yourself
Mm-hmm.
that you embody it. So that whole process of embodiment allows you to do what you got to do. Plus, the scenes are very short.
Okay. I guess when we're watching it on the screen, it's like it's all long, and so it
That
seems
had
like,
to
man,
spend
that's a
some
lot of
time.
dialogue.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
some scenes are super long. Like some people are really good at that. Look at Saturday Night Live. That's live.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, which that reminds me, I have to go.
Yeah, that would definitely be
Different thing
fun.
about being in New York. Yeah, I've been on to the Daily Show and Stephen Colbert. This summer I went to Stephen Colbert. Just a bunch of them. Yeah, it's super fun living here.
Yeah. Sounds like it. I'm excited for you and all the things that are coming up because that sounds like such a delicious life, being able
It's
to just do the things that light you up and have fun with it.
and a lot of this, when you get your consciousness set on the right track and you are not allowing your limitations and all the nasty voices, and for me it's the Buddhist practices that have liberated me from all that. When you see things as they really are, so I made the decision to stop doing the relationship coaching, because even though I have helped so many people, something wasn't right. And this year, in the way I was doing it, and this year I got so clear, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be doing this. No, I don't, but no, this doesn't feel exactly right. And now what I learned was, if it doesn't feel exactly right, it's not.
Right.
Even if something feels a little bit off, And so what happened was, as soon as I said, and I announced, hey guys, I'm hanging up my hat, my relationship coaching hat, and I'm gonna focus on the acting or whatever. As like a couple days later, Risho Kosei Kai called me and asked me if I would help them and become their social media person and then do the courses and everything. That's right. Because before that, I was like, maybe I should just start a new YouTube channel and Buddhism and relationships. And I was just like, oh God, it just feels exhausting. So, so it's just like, not right.
It
I'm
shouldn't feel this hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, God, did I waste all these years? And then, I mean, I couldn't have dreamed it up any more perfect than
Yeah.
because, and that's really what I wanted to at the beginning when whatever I said something to you. I really am so glad I remembered to say this because that's the most important thing that I could say right now. If you're feeling off, we're not talking about getting to perfection, but you can get to a place of such clarity that all you feel is expansiveness and possibilities. And it's this winding road of saying no, no, no. And as a matter of fact, that is in yoga, in the practice of the 8 limbs of yoga, is called neti, neti, neti. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember this from a long time ago. And now I know what it means. Just, it will feel 100% right. And it's just that we haven't had the experience. So we're like, well, I gotta, I gotta settle here. I gotta settle there because we don't realize the possibilities, what they are.
Right, right. We're usually looking at things from our limitations and not our possibilities. It's like as a coach and a hypnotist, one of the things that I do is I work with someone and like our first session's like 2 hours because we do a lot of coaching and then we do the hypnosis to kind of solidify it, right? But it never fails. I don't think I've had one person like when I ask, well, what is it that you really want? I don't think I've had one solitary person that told me what they wanted. All they do is give me these litany of a list of all the things they don't want, you know? And then, you try to get them to start, rephrasing things a little bit different. And they'll say, yeah, but I don't really want this and I don't want that. And it's like it's like pulling teeth sometimes to get people to look on the other side of that. And I know not knowing what you don't want helps you see what you do want, but man, don't stay in that don't want thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The contrast is good, but then, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. So you are fascinating, I will say. I love this conversation. And because it seems like we're going all over the place, and then you keep reminding me of so many different things that have happened in my life. Like I haven't thought about that guy that I knew that was the Buddhist and the Sufi. I haven't thought of him in years, but now, those things are in the top of my mind. And I feel like when we meet someone, they're drawn to us and we're drawn to them for a purpose. And whatever it is that we bring out is something that needs to be addressed, needs to be seen, needs to be worked on, whatever it is, right? Because we're a mirror of whatever it is, right?
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's true, and I was walking down the street when I was doing my steps in Central Park. I was all of a sudden I had an insight of something. I had like before I decided to not do coaching anymore, I
Hmm.
invested a lot of money into like courses to help me get my business to the next level. I'm talking like a ridiculous amounts of money, almost $15,000. And I was still kind of angry about, spending all that money and not at myself, at the course creators, because I'm not the only one angry at these people. After like giving like 5,000 here, 5,000 there, and then not having the support that was promised,
Hmm.
because a lot that goes on a lot. But today, when I was on my walk, it stopped me dead in my tracks. I was like, oh my God, this is my part. What was my part?
Mm.
Because I couldn't, I kept thinking, nope, I'm innocent. I'm innocent here. There's nothing, I was sold a bill of goods and whatever. And then I realized what my part was. I
What
was like,
was it?
it didn't feel exactly right. I didn't like that person at all. Um, like I mean, now it kind of like the floodgates have opened and there were like so many things that were wrong. And I chose to do it anyway.
Yeah, you didn't listen to your intuition.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was an expensive lesson. I know, like, for real now. So maybe it was worth $15,000.
Yeah, yeah. Taught you
Just
something. You
coming up that clarity now. I'm
yeah,
not going to make that mistake in a real important situation.
right. Well, it's funny because one of the things that I've done for as long as I can remember, when something happens, I'll say, well, that was life lesson, and I will give it a random number. So if it was something really big, it might be 2024, whatever.
Yeah.
And then if it seemed like something small, it was life lesson number 97, So the number was in relation to how big it felt. But to me, it helped me to move through the stuff. It was like, okay, it's okay, it was just life lesson number whatever, and I'll keep going, and I'll feel it and let it go. But and I used to tell people all the time, I would say, well, that was a life lesson. I'd give them the number and they'd say, what, do you number them? I said, oh no, it's just a random number.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. Maybe now that I've been able to let it go, I'll start doing that.
Yeah, yeah. For some reason, it helps me, I will say.
Yeah.
All right, so we're getting close to time, and
Okay.
this has been amazing. It doesn't feel like it's already been right almost an hour. And but like I said, you're fascinating. I love talking to you, and I can't wait to see you on the big screen. And now I'm going to have to start looking when I see some of those shows, where is she at in there,
Yeah, well, just like I'm trying to let people know the episode numbers when I can find them out. They don't want to tell us usually unless I go
Mhm.
for a fitting. If it's a period show, like I'm in a show about, I don't know, some famous rapper. I can't even remember the name of it right now. And so if I go for a fitting, the episode number will be hanging there in the dressing
Okay.
room where they're the wardrobe people are fitting me. So
Yeah.
I in like
So do you put that stuff on your Facebook page?
I yeah, I'll change it to friends only. Um, and I'll wait like to so it's because I also have a responsibility to the people that I'm working for to not
Right.
divulge too much information. And like, there are things going on, and then you'll hear gossip on set about somebody's quitting or this and that, and they're not ready to reveal that. So I try and, be very respectful of that. And then when I know I can, I'll give information.
Okay. Well, I'll be watching. I'll be watching. I'll say that for sure. That for sure. And so everybody that is watching or listening right now, just know that when I publish this, I will have in the description all the ways that you can connect with Brenda and all the ways that you can connect with me. And like I said, that you're fascinating, and I'm going to be checking out your stuff. So since you're doing this thing with the YouTube and all that, and you're going to be helping with the relationship coaching there, so you're not going to be doing relationship coaching other than that, right?
Well, I was thinking about that today too, and I was thinking, well, some people might come take the course, but they might need extra help. So I may, in this new capacity, coach again.
Okay.
So I am contemplating that.
Okay. Well, one of the reasons I'm asking, and I probably should ask this when we get done, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Um, in my Facebook group, I love inviting people to come in and talk. And you know, that it's stand up and stand out, but it's a lot about your relationship with yourself. It's your confidence in yourself and your relationship with others and being able to let go of limiting beliefs and all of that kind of stuff. So just kind of put a little bug in your ear. If it sounds like something that you would like to be part of my group and just come in and be an expert one day and we can just chat on there and talk about relationships, whether it's with
I
yourself
would
or
love to.
others.
I would
Okay.
love to, because like when I said I was, I was quitting, I did feel like this loss,
Mm-hmm.
but I am stepping into this new role.
Yes.
So now I really am blending my love of Buddhism and relationships together. And I mean, well, Buddhism goes with everything because it's the study of a reality.
Right.
So, I can bring now my new awarenesses with it all and how everything's coming together. I would love to.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. So I'm going to make a note and I will, hold on a second. Let me make a note so I don't forget. All right, so I've made a note, so I'm definitely going to take you up on that, and we'll have to get something in the work. So I'm excited, and and like I said, I'm excited to have met you and that you accepted being on the podcast with me. Um, I'm just blown away with your energy and all the things that you're bringing to the table today. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Vicki. It was such a pleasure meeting you. You're a sweetheart, and I just really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So I'm going to end with one of my favorite quotes, and it is the best way to predict the future is create it. And that just seems to always go along with everything that I talk to my guest about. So it's my favorite quote. And so I will say, I will see you guys soon and make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Mwah.